Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the Achilles Heel Show. I'm your host, Sapphire Achilles, and I am here with a very special guest, someone I've been trying to work with for about 2 years now. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I slipped on that notice. So I'm Xavier. My page handle is Xavier Attainment. I came up with it when I was younger and didn't know the world. So I'm a coach. I'm a relationship coach. I've been working with people for over 8 years and a few thousand people that have come across my desk. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And shout out to the studio too for allowing us to use this space.
Absolutely. BlendRVA.
Yes.
Yeah, we're up here in Richmond, Virginia.
Absolutely.
This is where I'm currently living. So this is where I'm at also.
So how did you kind of get into relationship coaching?
Well, it kind of chose me.
Okay.
I think that, when you call out to the universe, I made a video one day saying that I wanted to contribute to society in a much bigger way. And for some reason, I felt compelled to make TikToks. And I was just bored. It was COVID. Then before I knew it, the second I talked about relationships, it exploded.
Yeah.
So I really didn't expect that. I was just making random stuff. And then before I knew it, everybody was calling me. So I was like, let me keep doing it. And then I kept going viral. So I was like, let's make it into a business. Why not?
Yeah, and I feel like relationships are such a hot topic nowadays, but I do also feel like there's a lot of regurgitated information out here. A lot of people, I always say, not everybody deserves a mic. And so there's a lot of people out here that I've been listening to just on, social media in general. And I'm like, okay, let's actually get down to, what people need to hear, right? The things that are not so regurgitated and not so caught up in their feelings and more facts. So, what do you think some of the common misconceptions are in relationships?
Well, we can go there. For starters, I think that social media itself has become a culmination of instant gratification. So a lot of people who want to hear what they want to hear as quickly as possible from a biased point of view have somewhat dominated the platform. So sometimes what you're seeing is someone's inner thoughts based off a perception that is selfish, and they're calling that a universal thought. So one of the things is like, oh, well, women all want a rich man. And that's all they want.
Yeah.
And yet I've met so many women that want different characteristics of a man. Like they look for character first. Like how disciplined is he? How willing is he? How much does he work on his private life? And how much is he willing to provide in emotional and mental areas as well? So for social media, it tends to blow up one point of view that gets the most traction. And then everybody bandwagons it, which is okay. But it's not the accurate story for everyone. It's too much generalization.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of it people use as subliminals too, right? A lot of people I've seen when they look at posts on social media, they think everything's talking about them, especially when people overuse the word like narcissism, gaslighting, always trying to diagnose someone with something. When in reality, I do think that it is a little bit overused. And I think that sometimes we need to fall into a little bit deeper of okay, there's a reaction for actions. And yes, a lot of people are messed up, but what are we doing to make sure that we are so, we can self-realize and self-analyze ourselves to where we don't put ourselves in that position. And when we can recognize those, how to remove ourselves from those positions. Because I feel like a lot, especially in a lot of common modern therapies, a lot of therapists that I've seen tend to victimize the client instead of trying to pull them out of therapy. That's why a lot of clients are there for 4, 5, 6 years, when that's not the goal of therapy. The goal of therapy is to pull you out of it. So I think, that's one of the big things that are going. We're always talking about feelings, and not how can we direct our feelings to grow.
Well, and I love what you said. And to me, it's like the echo chamber effect, where when I feel like a victim, instead of analyze, and granted, there are genuine victims that operate at an extremes, right? But for people who feel like that, but it may not necessarily be the case because we've misconceptions we go to a place which social media provides where there's a bunch of people that collaborate and they all say the same thing. And some people will actually wield a statement that isn't even generated by them. So they're speaking on behalf of things that they've never even known.
Yeah.
And they're judging, they put categories. They're like, women this and men this, and this is how women look at men and men look at women. Meanwhile, there have been so many times where I heard a guy talk about women, and then I would ask, well, how many women have you dated in this category? How many women have you dated over 30 to even know this? Yeah. And then somehow they're so confident in their answer. They're like, oh, well, never. Oh, I've dated maybe 2 women in the last year. Yeah. And you have so many opinions. You haven't even dated 1% of the population to even know what you're talking about. Yeah. But yet you've got a broad stroke of opinions. And then you say those opinions like it's a fact. You make it an objective fact when it's really a subjective opinion. Right. And then they project it. So it gets convoluted, but it's like insecurity projected onto people because I don't get an opportunity. I'm not getting an opportunity to date the woman that I want. So instead of, reflecting and analyzing, maybe what could I do differently or how could I, up my game a little bit, it becomes about villainizing her. Let me start picking apart every woman in this category. Let me start sending messages to everyone and making statements, broad statements, to shame them, to make me feel better about myself for the fact that I didn't get an opportunity. And I get it, there's nuance, but at the same time, it's one-sided bias and it's misinformation that's then relayed to people who also haven't had the opportunity, people who are younger, impressionable, people who are hurting. A lot of hurt people tend to influence other hurt people and then project that as the meaning for everybody. Yeah. So, curious what you think about that.
No, I agree with you. And I think one of the main things that, I was kind of talking about earlier was I think people go to AI a lot.
Oh my God, that's a horrible thing.
For their diagnosis, right?
It's just a validator. That's all it does. It just validates you regardless of whether you're right or wrong. They need to tell AI, you know what, can you check me? Can you be in opposition so I can learn if I'm wrong? When it's super agreeable, that's when you need to be careful because that's not growth. Yeah. Accountability is growth. Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing, and people, I understand, I hate it too. Sometimes when I have to take accountability, I'm like, oh my God, man. Like I'm called out again. It's hard. It's hard, but it's good for you. Yeah. It's a loving thing. When my friend calls me out and says, man, you're doing this wrong, I love that person. Because I'm like, you're being real with me. You want to see me progress in life.
And it's a respect thing too, right? Like 100%. You respect people that no one wants a yes man. People want somebody who says, this is what you need to work on. I love you, but you need to check yourself. That kind of goes into my next question. A lot of people say love should be unconditional. No, I'm not laughing. So my question to you was, should love be unconditional, or are conditions healthy boundaries?
I think this question has some spillover because I think there are 3 categories from what I've researched. There's eros, which is romantic love and passion and romance. There's ethos, which is character. I love you for your character, your ethics, your state of being. And then there's agape, which is also considered to be the purest form of love, but is also like God's love for people, like you're loved regardless. So I think in a way we need to embody all 3 of them because there's elements that need to be had. If you just have one, like for example, I just have ethos, I don't know if I'm saying it right, eros, sorry. And it's just romantic. I don't think that's enough to say that that's really love. So that means, and then it crosses over into other things. Like if I just love you for romantic reasons and not for you as a person, not for where you stand and your values, your principles, your morals, and getting to know you as a person, it's not gonna last. That means I'm just reliant on my feelings. Whereas I need to love you as a person. But I think that now, and this goes back to social media, lust has been the #1 driving force for our most recent generation. Yes. And lust not only comes in the form of like fornication or like sleeping with each other. That is one of the definitions. But I think you can lust or crave, as it says in Buddhism, I think, love as well. If you say, I want to feel loved, and I prioritize that over my own well-being, that's when it becomes toxic. There needs to be boundaries. So I think that love in all its forms has a combination, and how you look at it is up to you, but you need to be able to love someone, but also have boundaries for yourself so that you can be loved properly. In fact, I don't think you can be loved or loved properly without having boundaries.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. It's like love in the romantic sense is like warming up the house. And then if you don't have boundaries, it burns the house down. So there needs to be a cap and a limitation to how this love works for each other, and giving to each other selflessly. Sorry.
I love that. So I do know that there are, in the time where there are a lot of feelings, I think a lot of people tend to forget those boundaries, right? And they try to push them. Me, myself, I'll take full accountability. I've always been like a pusher. So I'll be like, what's the boundaries? Where can I, where can I move? Where can I go? And all of that stuff. But what I've learned as well is that, boundaries and respect like go hand in hand, right? And when I learned to respect those boundaries as a woman, right, that man feels like just more loved. Like, because women and men, they feel loved differently. And I have definitely come to realize it. The saying is very true. Like, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We think completely different, and a lot of us tend to forget that. So I think a lot of us women too. I'll just speak for myself. We like to see what exactly our boundaries without calling it control, and a lot of us think that it's like the same thing, because I've seen, a lot of people too, in any relationships that I've had, I've always had that one, person or acquaintance that always say, oh, don't you think they're just controlling? Don't you think that they're da 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 da? But in reality, when I looked at it, I'm like, no, they're just setting boundaries. I mean, we talk about it, right? But control is not always like abusive. Control, sometimes you can't really say that you're submissive without giving authority, which is control. Control isn't a negative term in itself. It's really a neutral term. But allowing that man to gain authority over you as, a submissive woman, I think that that's respect. And I only just started to switch that flip in my mind, because at first, the whole independent mindset, independent modern mindset was pushing the idea in my mind that was like, don't let a man tell you nothing, don't let da 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 da. But if he's checking all the boxes, where one, he's looking out for your well-being, two, he's keeping you safe, three, he's not forcing you to do anything, he's just guiding you to a safer place. If you can't say that this person is trying to, manipulate you or put you in a space where you're in harm's reach, then a lot of times I do believe us as the modern independent era of women need to start transforming our mindset from trying to victimize ourselves to understanding first how to vet the right man out so that you can be submissive to that man. So.
No, that's a very good point. And, to actually add on to that, I think that submission happens between both men and the woman.
Yes.
And we have to mutually submit and respect each other. And
I agree.
Submission, I think, is something that is acquired through building trust and proving that you are someone to be trusted.
Yes.
So I think that, the control aspect is a fun word, because it can be taken so many different ways.
So many ways.
And I think that for me, I replace the word control with security, because if I think you put in the right amount of effort and you show that you're someone who can provide that security to someone and they trust you, then when you give, advice, because I never want to say, you just do this because I say so, because then I think where people feel controlled is there's sometimes a double meaning behind it. If I date someone, then I would know what she wants and what she needs and what's important to her. So when I say, hey, this is going to work over this, that doesn't mean I'm expecting you to just listen to me. I'm just saying that because I know you and you trust me. So whatever advice I'm going to give you, you can still say no, and that's valid. And I just have to love you anyway. But I think that because you trust me, you might say, well, I'm not even going to question it because I know that you're looking out for my better interest unless there's something questionable, which I think can go both ways. And I think that, like you said, the whole independence thing, I think that those extremes without nuance contributes more to the social media thing. Like, oh, just don't listen, period. Like, I mean, well, how do we date? Like, aren't we supposed to
Can't
listen?
tell me nothing.
And they're telling guys the same thing. They're like, oh, unless a woman shows up submissive from day one. And it's like, where have I proven like you're a high value man, you got money, she just listens,
you
bro.
The prize, man.
You the prize, bro. Like, she better know. She better know. And I'm like, but at the same time, like, in her world, where have you shown that you're someone that's going to provide the kind of value that she's looking for? It is case by case and person by person. And we remove nuance. I think we're doing it for clicks at this point.
And that's why I will always advocate for like whoever may be a believer, like, you need to have the foundation of God. Because when a man can trust God and makes that the foundation of the relationship, and like fears God enough to be like, say when he's wrong and say when he needs to work on something, it's just so much more easier to trust a man that does that, because you no longer know that this man is his own God. Because when a man has no faith, he has no one to fear.
I would even go further than that, because I love what you said. It's one thing to have faith. It's another one to practice the basic principles in the text, because you've got so many scriptures in there that can lead us out of all this temptation and drama that we go through. So someone will say, I'm a believer, just to have the title. And this is what discourages a lot of people from following religion, because people will use the title and abuse it in order to make other people feel bad about themselves. So if a man says, oh, I'm following God. Well, I want to know, how are you putting that into practice? What scripture do you live by? What have you read about in the last week that inspired you to move or think differently? Because there's so many things that are in there, whether you're a believer or not. Because, I have clients that are of all different religions. I've had Islamic clients, with the Quran and Buddhism, Guru Granth Sahib. I think that's Sikh religion. And a lot of it has the same basic principles. In fact, they even mention it in some of the books. They'll say, if someone believes this, as long as they're following basic principles, we're all right. But, if you're not practicing and you're not showing evidence of that, then how much can we say that you're capable? Because I think people get caught up in that. They're like, oh, all I have to do is just meet someone that believes in God and I'm good. But where is the evidence that they're doing it? Because then when I hear about the way they date and I hear about the way that they approach things
and their results too,
it's like you're not going with the scripture. And I'm not saying that you have to, right? Like I said, for those who are non-believers, I still believe that the book is worth reading because it has basic principles and guiding principles and historic context. So there's still a lot of value in there just to learn regardless. But either way, I think that we have to come with a sense of humility whenever we meet people and give them a chance to get to know us as individuals, because you see it every day. We're going with our instant gratification and it's actually tearing us apart, because we're figuring out, why are we feeling depressed, hurt, unloved, and we're getting to these spaces going the same route. Everybody's doing the same thing. And it's, but you guys, taking up all the bandwidth.
No, please. I want to know, from your perspective, how important it is that a man practices sexual discipline.
Oh, very. Because what are you doing it for? Like, if you're sleeping with someone, what is the purpose? What is the intention? Because with anything we do, right? Sexual discipline in regards to human affection and interaction. Am I doing this because I want it? Or am I doing this because it's for your benefit as well? This is when we go into that form of love, right? I just want to feel. And that leads a lot of people, and of course a lot of men, to bad spaces, because you're putting it as a priority before what you believe in and your values. If your values are so easy to break the second you see someone that's offering up a lustful situation, then you need to really question what this is doing for your life. Because you say you want all these things. You want more money, which is fine. You can want more money. I want a better life. I want a house. I want a family. I want stability. I want to grow. But every time I see something nice walk by, I'm out there. I'm giving up all of it. And I'm not saying this as a perfect person. I am not perfect Patty up here. But I am saying I have grown and I have learned that this path, I mean, think about it. Even in scripture, people have died because of lust. And it says it in almost all the scriptures.
There have been so many wars been fought.
Yeah, and exactly. So I think it's important to discipline yourself because you can get in touch with the intentionality behind this person, because you're probably missing opportunities with the right person. You're probably missing your wife and your forever person because you're so stuck on your lust. And I understand, like, for example, you meet a woman that is you respect her, you want to get to know her, you think that she's wife material for you. And then you're automatically thinking of her in an objectifying way. What do you think she's going to do? Yeah. How do you think she's going to perceive you after that? She's going to lose respect for you. And she's going to feel like she can't trust you because she's like, you're out here. How can I say that you're a respectable man, that you could be the father of children? I'm the one that has to get pregnant and I have to bear these children for you to just be like, oh, I just want to take you down day one. Like I'm supposed to trust that you can lead me, because then they talk about leadership. Oh, I want to be a leader, but you can't discipline yourself for more than 2 weeks. You outside.
And I think it's very important too to understand that it's like this world is just overstimulated, right? And a lot of the time, us as people, just in the world, it's become such a norm that we have this hookup culture, this situationship culture. Like if we're gonna cancel anything, we need to cancel that.
Yeah.
Because the microwavable relationships where everything, people want it so fast and so easy. It's like relationships are hard work. Relationships are tough. Let me tell you, like I be fighting for my life.
You are not lying.
Yes, but like at first, like I realized that when I was young, like a lot younger, my mindset, especially just in the world with different influences and different people always in your ear and things like that, like you realize how much the devil attacks you in those different, like always trying to make yourself like make it everybody else's problem but yourself, right? Especially like, from my perspective, I've always been told like somebody else is the problem. I was like, I gotta be the problem at some point. But then when I realized, when I started, hanging around those people that were able to tell me no and able to tell me like, you're actually tripping. Like, those times I was like, no, there's a lot of things that I need to work on, and relationships are not easy and they're not supposed to be easy. So whenever I do happen to get in a relationship or a friendship or even with family, those are direct mirrors of how you treat them most of the time. Another question. Do you think...
Shout out again to BlendRVA. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Much love to y'all.
Do you think that love matters more than compatibility or lifestyle?
Compatibility or lifestyle?
Yeah.
I think you need to be compatible in order to love properly.
Okay.
Because I think that compatibility has a lot more to do with you seeing each other outside of the emotion. And your expression of love to them has to be not just because you feel good, but because you want to do right by them. You prioritize their needs.
Yeah.
So, and what was the third one? You said lifestyle? Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Like, I just see a lot of people want like a certain lifestyle in relationships, and, people justify it by hypergamy. Or just like, I just want a man who takes care of us.
Oh, so you mean like materialism?
Yeah.
Like somebody, well, here's the thing.
Because, in reality, statistically proven, a lot of people, even in arranged marriage and stuff like that, most of them were based on materialism.
Well, I think that it's sometimes bigger than material, because you got a point. I think it's sometimes not just the materialism per se, but rather the security that they have and the lifestyle. I think if you just want that one aspect for your own selfish reasons, that's one thing. But to say, hey, I feel more secure in this environment with somebody who's a little bit more successful or who's driven, and that makes me feel safe here. And vice versa. That person wants someone who can get on board with that lifestyle. That is, hey, if that works for you guys and you can selflessly give to each other, that's a thing. You know, I can't judge which lifestyle works for other people.
Of course.
I think that people are willing to do, as long as you both are willing to put each other first, regardless of what, I guess, condition that's in, I think that's what matters more than all of this. I think the problem comes in when you look at one part of a person and you say, I like them for that, I want them for that for me, rather than saying, I'm looking at them as a person and seeing how much I can love them where they are. How much can I provide love and actions to their life to make sure that they got what they need? And of course, vice versa. But when you go in and saying, oh, I just want a person for their money, and not for who they are as a person, eventually you're gonna have to get there.
Absolutely.
And same the other way around. I just want someone because they're pretty, but I don't really actually care about them as a whole person.
Yeah.
I just want to use their body and their mind and their gestures. Then that's when it gets convoluted. So I think that in a selfless form, it can come in many forms, whether the person's high status or high income versus whatever else. I think that's what matters more.
As a man, is the expectation to lead in relationships empowering or burdensome to you?
I think it depends on the man. I think that not all men are meant to lead. I think that not all men are looking to lead. I think a lot of them are looking to be more of a partnership, or they look for women that are a little bit stronger. But I also think that sometimes leadership can be interchangeable. You know, it's not always a one size fits all. Because if you look at the term alpha that was coined by David Meck, I think back in the 1970s, he said in an enclosure, he looked at wolves that were acting a certain way when under people, but when they were out in the wild, it was a male and female equal together amongst the family. So in a way, yes, I think that for me, I can speak for myself, it's very empowering because I do see myself as a leader and a man that, so the way I see leadership is not just I call the shots. It is, I know you and everyone else so well that I'm willing to serve you and I'm willing to take on more of the burden. So I'm willing to work more than everyone in this squad, more than my wife, more than my family, to make sure that you are covered so you don't have to worry. I want to make sure that you and the kids have a happy, drama-less environment where you can thrive, and I will take all the BS. So that's how I look at it. And I don't think everybody wants to sign up for that.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody is
It's a hard job.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's not expected that you are gonna have the most fun all the time.
Yeah.
But I find fun in working endlessly and in suffering, you know, to get there. Like, I actually love that and thrive in that environment. Not everybody does. So, yeah, I think it's empowering for me. I'll just say that.
Okay, let me ask this. Does the world need more emotionally available men when there's a huge shift in many men becoming very feminine? So
I think that we need to be better about creating spaces for men to process their emotions properly. Men kill themselves at 3 times the rate of women. Men have not historically felt like they can express themselves without getting some type of shame or blowback. And I think that is not contributing well to the male community because even though, like, I get it, you know, the way that they express themselves isn't always favorable. But I think that, I don't know how we can do this, but if we can get more spaces for men to express how they feel and process how they feel and without judging them and I think that there's a chance we can raise their level of awareness and how to work with certain situations. I think a lot of men are, like you said, if we go back to the point about them being leaders, I think a lot of men took that and ran with it and said, okay, I'm not supposed to have a personality. I'm not supposed to be emotional. I'm supposed to be devoid of emotions and just work all the time and forget about being happy. So that pushes them to a limit of an extreme. And then you've got a lot of people saying, well, men have to be the breadwinners, men have to be this. And then you have a society where it's not allowing certain men to get certain spaces without having to scratch and crawl. So that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then they're not supposed to express how they feel. So then it comes out in other ways. They're taking their own lives. Yeah. They're losing their minds. So I think that emotional availability comes in more forms than just, you know, what it seems. And I think that when certain men express themselves, it is labeled as feminine. And I think that is where that judgment can make those men feel unheard and triggered, because they're like, okay, so because I'm acting like this, you're trying to put me in a category that's negative. It's the same thing as when they try to call women masculine, which I don't believe in these terms. I don't believe in feminine and masculine. I believe in active and passive. Because if you think about it, we all exhibit active and passive to an extent. So if you want to bubble it up to masculine and feminine, we all have those qualities. I mean, we're all born, from two parents, and we have influences of both in society. So what happens is that we say women are masculine, but then look at what women have to go through. Look at what they have to face in society. I see women have to hold their heads down and walk through certain areas because you don't know which dude is going to try you today. From the time that you're like a teenager, like you don't know who it is either. It could be your cousin, it could be your brother, it could be people on the street. You got to be on guard nowadays because there's so much danger out here. So then we say, oh, well, women are too tough, too hard. Well, I mean, what do you expect? Look at what we're doing. We're putting them in situations where they don't feel safety. Then you got guys out here who meet women that are ready, who are ready to give and ready to try. I'm not saying anyone has to be perfect. But then they mess with those women. They act out of lust. They sleep with them, and then they manipulate them, and then they walk away. And then that woman now has to go back out into society and says, I'm going to try to have to clear my chakra from all of this mess you just put me through. And then that dude's still playing games. He's still coming back and going in and coming back and going in. And then, and I'll take this one more layer because I promise I got you.
No, please.
Then they will say, okay, well, why doesn't she choose better? And I'm like, where's the male influence that she's supposed to have? So we've got, and I believe I saw this statistic, about 40% of kids that are born out of wedlock. So then you've got a large group of people that are born in single parent households, majority of it, or I guess or so, being just single moms. So then you've got dads that aren't even around to be the influence. They're not protected. So then they have to, from day one as a child, learn how to protect themselves without the guidance of the one man that was supposed to be there. For many reasons. So then we say, okay, it's just dismantling all the ways that women have been placed in these categories without looking at the cause of how they got there. And I feel like we're always arguing for one side, but we don't look at both and try to say, well, let's understand, let's be more compassionate, let's be more empathetic. Because I think social media tries to spin it up where we're all like at each other's throats without talking about the why. So then it makes us feel like we're 10 times different, like you're being evil to me. And you're trying to attack me from my gender. But the reality is we're taking misunderstandings, grouping them, and saying that this is the reason. They're doing it to you on purpose. Mm-hmm. So.
How do you. We got the amen in the back. So how do you navigate vulnerability in relationships without feeling like you're giving up power or respect?
So I think you can't think about power. There is no power in a relationship. It is only about giving vulnerability. That's your only way. If you're going to have power, it's through vulnerability. You got to allow people. It's like that quote from Osho where he said, if you want to love this flower, you have to water it where it's at. You don't pick it up because then it dies. So if you look at it in terms of, I'm going to pluck this flower, I'm going to pull this person out of their natural atmosphere to do what I want, then you're destroying what that person was meant to be. You have to love them where they're at. Now, granted, you grow together over time, but vulnerability is strategic if you think about it. Because I'm like, okay, if I'm vulnerable, that means I'm looking to give you a space to potentially hurt me. Now, here's what you could do. You say in a relationship?
Yeah.
In a relationship, you're supposed to be vulnerable 100%. And you're supposed to have trust 100%, unwavering trust. Like this person can go off in some area that you might think something could happen. I'm not saying, granted the extremes, outside the extremes, you're supposed to be able to trust that this person has your best interests. So that's true vulnerability. If you don't have that, if you're walking around saying, I want to look at their phone or I wonder who they're with or where they're at or what's happening, then this is not genuine love and vulnerability, which means it's going to struggle to grow.
Well, I do also think that when it comes to trust and someone going out into a space of I guess where there is a lot of temptation and things like that, I do know, and I've, been learning over time that we need to, because there's not in terms of like dating and stuff like that, but even in that sense, like they are supposed to kind of be together. You're not even supposed to put yourselves in those positions to be tempted. So I think a lot of times, us as people, we go out into these spaces where, there is a lot of temptation, secular things, worldly things, and we think that we can overcome or just step above a lot of things, when in reality, there's no reason to put ourselves out of the respect of the relationship and ourselves, to put ourselves in those spaces of temptation in the first place.
Yeah, and that's tough, because I think that temptation has different ingredients for different people. What one person may consider to be tempting, another one doesn't. So therein lies the problem, because it's like, are we going to go with universal ideas, or are we going to go with this individual person's way? And how much do they know themselves? Do they know that this is a tempting situation for them? Do they know that this level of secular is what's going to pull them into something?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we do that?
Well, I think it is also interesting, kind of going back to, the Bible, when it says the heart is the most deceiving of all things. And I think that's very interesting, because a lot of times we think we know ourselves, but how many times have we said we're not going to do something, we end up, doing something? Or eventually, when we hang out with a certain amount of people, or we put ourselves in a certain amount of positions so many times, like, to what end does somebody fool? You see it so many times where people say that they're not going to do something and then end up at least
all the
trying
time.
something out.
And in therapy world, I think that's called cognitive dissonance. What I say versus what I do is two different things. And if I see that happening, I normally see that as an identity challenge. Like, you are saying one thing and doing another. That shows me that you may not be that in touch with your identity. And if you have that issue, then I think you're more likely to follow, because what I see from those people is they follow what they feel. And if you, like you said, the heart, if you follow just what you feel, and you can't be counteracted by principles, because we all have feelings that don't always add up. Like, we have feelings that don't always make sense, but we have to discern, and we discern through discipline and through work. So I think that, if a person isn't following any principles or I guess some type of standard, then they're more likely to fall into temptation, because it even says in the Bible, even if you face temptation, God will provide you a way out. So if you're not actively looking for that way out, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
You had a lot of good questions.
All right, I'm trying my best,
Yeah, you came prepared.
Now just.
So what do you think? What do you think is the most important thing for women right now to understand? As a woman, like, what do you think is important in the world today?
So, from what I see a lot versus what I'm personally dealing with, just like looking out and seeing, how we're interacting and things like this, I think a lot of times what is going wrong is we think things are going to be easier than they are. And we expect that. And we are almost feel like we're entitled to that. And just life in general is going to be hard. But the whole, I deserve this and I deserve that and I'm entitled to this, without putting in the mental discipline, the mental work, the emotional work, and just the growth in itself, I think the entitlement needs to stop. And, me personally, a little bit of my background is I, was raised in a, pretty strict home till I was about pretty young, till I moved out around maybe 14, 15 years old. And that is when the world tried to raise me. And the difference between the world raising me versus people who were very strict, foreign parents and everything, I realized that everyone tries to tell you that you deserve this and you should do this and go out and your feelings and all these things, when you should not do that at all. Actually, you need to preserve as much innocence and purity in yourself as possible. And that doesn't mean going out and quote unquote living your best life, because a lot of people's version of that is tainting themselves and is hurting themselves. And in reality, when they're going to come out of it, you know, the people who are speaking about their regrets about not getting married and not, you know, pursuing somebody that they should have worked for, or, you know, pursuing a job or anything in general that requires work, they always say that after, you know. And I really, really encourage those women to step in before their prime time, while they're still young, while they're still pure, while they still maintain that innocence and that curiosity, to put their energy in something that is more wholesome, something that in the long term is going to grow you. And I think the world is just trying to separate and make a very independent mindset for a lot of the modern women. You know, speaking from personal experience, you know, a lot of people tried to make me this independent. You can do everything by yourself. I don't want to do everything by myself. I actually don't want to be independent, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to have to always look over my shoulder to see if somebody's there. You know, I want to have a community. I want community. I want love. I want to be able to look back at my life and say, I built this with respect, with love, with hard work. And a lot of people say that the soft life is something that you just should get, like, regardless, and that's just not reality. It's, unfortunately, you know.
I agree. I mean, I think we can all agree that we need people, you know, as a whole. And I think what we're being presented through channels of the world is that you can do everything on your own, but everything on your own still has facets of other people that we have to look at, whether in a relationship or just in general. And even in the book, scripture says you can be in the world, but not of the world. And I think it's important that we look at that, because a lot of us are in the world trying to get our ideas from there without looking inward, reflecting, being more introspective, and asking, does that work for me as an individual? It's trying to take our individual selves and try to mold us with other people that are all thinking individualistic. And I think individualistic thinking, when it goes too far, doesn't allow us to unite. We become very divided. Mm-hmm. And to capitalize on what you're saying about, you know, indulgence, I think the world has presented us, and we got to understand, there are people behind the scenes that benefit from certain indulgences.
Oh, absolutely.
The more unhealthy we are, the more sad we are, the more corrupt that we are, the more there are places that will give us a pill for it, or that will, you know, give us hospital visits, and, you know, they like to provide, they like to give us the problem and the solution, and they get paid for both. So disciplining yourself, fasting, keeping yourself out of certain environments sometimes is good for your spirit and for your overall well-being. However, you know, circling back on, you know, what are we practicing? We're being told to practice instant gratification. And we're being told to practice what I want right now, regardless of how it makes anyone feel, regardless of what it even does to me. So then we have, okay, if I'm practicing instant gratification all the time, but then I want a marriage. A marriage is long-term and selfless. But my entire life, I've only practiced getting what I want at the moment. Yeah. Then how am I going to be capable of transitioning over properly so that when I meet the person, I'm able to provide them with that nature? So it's two different dynamics. And then we kind of like villainize or demonize the idea of being codependent. And I'm not saying now codependent because this is a trigger word. It can go to an extreme where you have zero identity and this person is tormenting you and you're not thinking for yourself. That is not what I'm talking about. I think there is a certain healthy amount of codependency that actually could be fruitful. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about co-regulation, dyadic regulation, when I'm feeling anxious or worked up, this person with a different perspective that I love and trust can help me get to a grounded place. We can help each other grow, I think that people have forgotten what love is actually supposed to be.
Yeah,
you can depend on this person to grow.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people are feeling horrible in their relationships and their marriages. They're like, man, this sucks. This person's taking everything from me. And I'm like, that's the opposite of what's supposed to happen here. Like, this is not the point of marriage and relationships. It's to work with each other in a growing way so that you experience fulfillment more than you ever have. But I also think, with that being said, we need purpose. We need purpose. And I think that not just purpose as an individual, which also matters, but purpose as a unit, as a couple.
Yeah.
And I think some people just get together and they're like, I'm done. Job's over. I found the one I love. I can chill. I can lay back, eat some good food, which you can do. Like, I don't fault anyone. I don't judge. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I do think that having a constant mission that you're working towards together and unifying, I think that could be healthy because it keeps us going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, piggybacks off of the saying, like, two shall become one, right?
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like, that person that you're going to be in a unity with, you're going to be cleaving together. You're going to be, building each other up. And really, I feel like a lot of people that say that, oh, this person's, this and that and stuff like that. There's also stuff we need to change within ourselves that we tend not to look at. So I think that rather focusing on other people all the time, we need to focus on ourselves.
I mean, that's our superpower. If we look at ourselves and look at how to grow as an individual, there's a lot of things that we're not going to succumb to. If you say, like, ask, and not every situation, like, I know there are extremes, but in certain situations when you're experiencing hardship and heartache and just a lot of bad stuff, if you can say to yourself, where did I contribute to this? Mm-hmm. Not because you're trying to blame yourself. I'm not saying blame yourself. I'm saying just so that you can prevent it. Because sometimes you will realize it's just simply me moving myself out of the situation. It's simply me saying I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have allowed that. I shouldn't have gone for that. I shouldn't have wanted that.
Yeah, because then you cover yourself, right?
Exactly.
The best thing that I will say is that the best way to not get caught is to not do it at all.
Exactly. I find myself saying, like, don't even start.
Exactly.
Like, I don't even want to get into it. I don't even want to know, because then I got to battle with some stuff I don't need to battle with. Like, I'm cool. I keep it peaceful. It might be a little boring, but at the same time, like, I avoid a lot of stuff, and just being strategic.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to ask you about your view on men then.
Ooh.
What do you think? Because, you've had some opinions about the ladies and, standing with that. So as far as a man goes, what do you think a man should do to gain value and worth, or to, find the right person, or just be in society? Like, what do you think some things that could align with this path?
So
he should consider.
It's a good question. So I think it's really important for men to understand that they set the tone in every relationship, because as a man is the leader, a lot of time women will naturally follow and submit to a man that they can respect, and they can see this is someone I can trust, like you were saying, security. So I think, the saying goes, and a lot of people overlook it, women are truly multipliers. Like, we will take something, whatever you give us, and truly make it like so much bigger. If you give us stress, but if you give us a house, we're gonna make a home. You give us peace, and we're gonna multiply that. And I think a lot of times when people complain about relationships that they're in and how women are just keep rebelling and stuff like that, I really don't think that girl likes you that much. Like, the constant rebel. I'm talking about absolutely no submission whatsoever. She will not work with you. She's doing whatever she wants. That's no boundaries as a man, and I encourage men to have those boundaries, because women, as much as they might fight it, they respect it. They know that you respect yourself enough to make sure that this is the line I do not cross, even before we met, So, yes, I really think that a lot of men compromise because the woman is beautiful, because the woman is, she's...
Me. Definitely done that.
But I mean, it's a universal thing, right? Because, I mean, I look at women all the time and I'm like, wow, like I see why men love women. Because women they're the sight to see, But a woman that will respect a man will so much like elevate that kind of man. And if you end up getting into a marriage or any relationship with a woman who does not respect you, who does not elevate you, who does not speak kindly to you, then you're going to be very miserable.
Good point. Those are all good points. Thank you for that. That's a standing ovation. So I think, to get to the points that you were saying and the points we had earlier about taking accountability, I think that right now there is a problem on both sides where a lot of people are hurt and a lot of people don't have the correct guidance to figure out how to get unhurt and to work through their healing. So in what we're talking about, there's a lot of people that are broken, that are projecting, because they don't understand. And I think that this is where the leaders or people who are doing their healing as a society, people who are looking for healing, can step in and try to work through that. Because one of the issues is you've got people who are in a hurting place listening to other people that are secretly hurt and their guidance. And then that person goes out and does broken things. And they're like, well, I listened to you as my guide, but then you went out and did the same thing that these other people were doing to me. So I don't even know who to trust. There's this double, personality to people. And I think that, we're also hyper labeling things. I don't think that every person and every situation deserves a label. I don't think every person is a narcissist. I think that sometimes we throw those labels around kind of loosely sometimes, and what I think it does is almost either cancels them completely, which doesn't help them because maybe it's just behaviors, or it gives them an excuse. Well, I have a mental health disorder, so that's why I treat you so badly. And it's not allowing nuance at all. Some people are just mean. Some people are just rude, and some people just want to be that way. And I think we need to stop, painting everybody with the same brush, because it almost validates their behavior. Some people just don't care. And when you talk about how women can respect men, there's a lot of men that not only don't respect themselves, but they don't respect the woman. And I'll have some women, how you'll know if a man doesn't respect you? He's not listening to any of your suggestions on improvement. Like, you will sit there and tell him over and over the same way every time, why don't you do this? And this is what I need, and I don't feel heard. And he will dismiss you, he will shut you down, he will invalidate you, which is interesting because he still wants a relationship with you. So he wants you on his terms. That's a lack of respect for you, which shows that he's not at all a leader. Because a leader has respect for you, and they say, I love you so much that I learn about you, and I'm willing to serve you in a way that you can grow. So at that point, and also we're kind of giving a lot of excuses to people. I think that, and granted, I understand there are cases where people may not understand certain concepts, may not have awareness, may not know better. But I think that at some point we got to stop giving them too many passes and start to say, how can we improve this? How can we make it so that you can move better in the world? Because if you're not healing or working through that state, then you're just going to keep perpetuating the same thing and keep running into the same situations. And this is on both sides, right? Eventually we got to all come together and say this, but there's also double standards. We place double standards on each other, expecting each other to heal. So, and I know I'm probably going to get blowback on this, because we're told that women and men are so different. I have coached thousands of women in groups and individually. And if I could tell you something, there are so many women that think exactly like men. It's not even funny. And it's not because they're in their masculine. It's because we're both people. So what I'm realizing, and this might just be me, is that women and men are conditioned differently. There might be some nuances biologically, but for the most part, we both think in terms similarly. But society, nature, or nurture versus nature, conditions us to see the world differently and to feel differently. But for the most part, we all want the same things. A lot of us are wanting the same and thinking similarly. It's just painted with a different color. So at the root of it, I feel like we're a lot more similar than we might think, but the world wants us to think that we're so far different to continue this battle of genders.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we're, yeah, so.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Same here. It's been great meeting you.
Yes, you as well. And shout out to the studio as well.
BlendRVA. Like, remember, it's like blend it up, right? You better Google it. Come here for a podcast.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, the background as well is really, really nice.
I love it here. I love everyone. I love you.
All right, so that is it for today. I just want to say thank you guys again for tuning into the Achilles Heel Show. We cannot wait to see you again on So that is it for today. We are going to wrap it up. Thank you, Xavier, again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you to BlendRVA.
Blend it up.
Blend it up. We are excited that you guys are tuning in with us, and we can't wait to see you on another episode of the Achilles Heel Show. Bye.
Bye, y'all.